Okay, so the 26th installment to the MCU in chronological order takes us to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Let's waste no time, let's talk about it. So I've officially now seen this movie twice, and I can say that it's okay. I do not think that Shang-Chi was the greatest movie ever made. I do not think this movie is as special as people are making out to be. If you actually watch this movie from start to finish, it's good. It's not great. It's not anything spectacular. It's okay. It's good. This movie to me has got a lot of negatives that I don't really care for, but it also has a fair amount of positives. Like I found myself liking this movie slightly more the second time around, yet still not overly impressed by it. So let me do my best to illustrate my pros and my cons when it comes to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So positives first. Most of the performances in this movie are good. I will say this. Semi Liu, he's actually pretty decent as the character of Shang-Chi. I don't mind him as an actor. Up to the, yeah, so like yeah, Semi Liu in the title role of Shang-Chi, I thought was decent. He ain't the best part of this movie, but he's not the worst part of this movie either. I mean, his acting isn't really anything to cry over. Like, he's good in the role. He's not fantastic. Some of the chemistry he has with certain members of the cast, some of it works and some of it doesn't work. It all depends on your personal taste. But to me, he was fine. I don't really buy Shang-Chi as a character to be a leading man. I find he works best part of it as an ensemble. But then again, I'm somebody who was not even a Shang-Chi fan. I didn't even know who the hell this guy was until they announced this movie back in 2018, 2019. And that's when I did like a little bit of research as to who the character is. And yeah, Shang-Chi was basically a pulp character created to cash in on the martial arts craze. He wasn't meant to be anything but that. I mean, if anything, Iron Fist has more popularity than Shang-Chi does. But I digress. Like, as an actor, Simi Luau as the character of Shang-Chi was fine. He at least makes him somewhat likable. Like, I didn't find myself hating the character of Shang-Chi. And some of the action sequences that Simi Luau did do were actually really well done. Some of the action sequences were well done, and I'll get to that after I wrapping up how I feel about the overall cast of this movie. Like, Simi Luau, some of his chemistry with members of the cast, some is actually really good, and some are just not that great. I'm not a huge fan of Awkwafina. I don't think she's that good of an actress. She plays Katie, who is the best friend of Simi Liu, and I think Katie is one of the worst aspects of this movie. She's basically a much more annoying version of Darcy from the Thor movies. Like, Awkwafina is borderline cringe on this movie. Like, she is annoying. Her voice irritates me. And she is more of a nuisance than she is a pivotal part of this movie. Like, you could have rewritten Katie just to... You could have taken Katie out of the movie and it would not have changed a damn thing. You would have still had the same movie. Katie was just there as a starring vehicle for Awkwafina, and I don't get the obsession of pushing Awkwafina. What is so special about this woman? I mean, listen, I ain't gonna lie. In the handful of movies I've seen Awkwafina in, I only saw one in which I did not hate her, and that was Renfield with Nicolas Cage. I didn't really care for her in Welcome to the Jungle, and I don't care for her in this movie, and I don't care for her in this movie. I thought she was just whatever. Annoying as all hell, served no purpose, and her jokes don't land. Like, they did this really random joke in which Shang-Chi is telling his origin story to Katie, and it's a very serious flashback about how his father is training him to be a killer, training him to be an assassin for the Ten Rings. You got this character called the Death Dealer, who was like this very aggressive trainer, who was basically like whipping Shang-Chi and toughening and hardening his body. And then it gets undercut by a horrible joke about a stewardess asking if they want vegetables or beef, and then Katie makes a fucking cringy joke about how how Shang-Chi changed his name to Sean, and Gina and Katie compared it to being someone called Gina, then calling her name Gina. Like, what kind of humor is that? That's not funny. That is ugly. That's terrible humor. And Awkwafina's delivery was just terrible. Awkwafina is just a terrible actress. She's terrible. She sucks. I did not care for her in this movie whatsoever. Honestly, truthfully, I would have taken Awkwafina out of this movie and just have the movie be about the two siblings going against Wenwu, with Katie being non-existent, because she just eats up screen time, and I don't like her character. I think she's annoying as all hell. She sucks. Again, she's a very annoying version of Darcy. At least Darcy is something to look at. Katie is nothing to look at because Awkwafina is not even that attractive of a woman. She's okay at best. But her voice ruins it because she sounds like a 55-year-old truck driver with lung cancer. So yeah, Katie is god-awful. She's terrible. I'll give her this. At least her and Shang-Chi play friends. At least I buy them as friends, even though I think Awkwafina sucks as an actress. And in those scenes, she's basically being saved by Simi Luau, who is pretty much carrying the load of their friendship development. And that's pretty much not fair to Simi Luau because I don't really think he's all that great in this movie either. I think he's actually decent, but not fantastic. In terms of Tony Leung as the villain Wenwu, I like Tony Leung as Wenwu. I like the character of Wenwu. I think Wenwu is one of the better Marvel villains. First of all, I like his whole story. I like the entire story that Wenwu has about being this ancient warlord who, because of the Ten Rings, has now got mortality. But then he meets this woman, and he marries this woman, and he pretty much becomes like a regular man, a father figure, a father, if you will. He fathers Shang-Chi. He fathers his sister Xiling. Then one day his wife is assassinated and he has to revert to the Ten Rings in order to get revenge. And once he did that again, he never went back. And in so doing so, he pretty much turned his two children to killing machines. And I like the whole idea of, the spirit of his wife calling to him to come to this place called Tai Lo, which is like this mystical realm between Earth and between all realities. And his story is all about getting his wife back and bringing her back to the mortal world. However, he was being when you actually watch the movie, it's revealed that he was being deceived the entire time by this mythological creature called the Dweller in Darkness. Like, Wenwu is a character with a lot of sympathy, but he's also not played for laughs. I mean, he does have there is this one scene where he's telling the story of how Aldrich Killian pretty much tarnished the name of the Mandarin and tarnished the name of the Ten Rings, and Wenwu kind of makes a joke out of it, but it's not a joke that's done in a cringy way. So I can appreciate that. Like, Wenwu is played mostly straight, and to be honest with you, Simi Luau's best scenes are when he's acting off Tony Leung, and that's where Simi Luau as acting prowess really starts to actually shine, and he's actually really good in these scenes because I like the father-son dynamic, even though the whole father-son angle's been done to death, especially with Luke and Vader. When done right, it's good, and in this movie, it was good. I enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, it's a retread. It's been done to death. But like I said, when you do it right, I like it. And in this one, it was done fairly right. It's not as iconic as Luke and Darth, but it's still pretty decent and still pretty good. And I do like what it leads to, though I don't like the aftermath of it. And I'll get to that when I get to my negatives. In terms of like cameo roles, we have cameos from Wong. We got cameos from Abomination. They appear when Sammy and Katie are going to this underground fight club in Macau. We get the scene of Wong fighting the Abomination. Of course, if you watch that crappy She-Hulk TV show, it kind of ties into what they're doing over here, in which they're in this fight club. So, like, yeah, the addition of Wong in this movie was just there as a cameo. He serves no purpose until the mid-credit scene, to be honest with you, because Wong doesn't even interact with Shang-Chi, which I think he should have, so that way it would have made the mid-credit scene make a little bit more sense, in my opinion, or at least make the end of the movie make a little more sense, because Wong would have an established relationship with Shang-Chi. So yeah, that is what it is. And I mean, look, I like the character of Wong. So that is that, and of course, even though Abomination is only there for a brief time, it is Tim Roth doing the motion capture work for it. So I can't overly hate it. I mean, and this was the first. This movie did have the reintroduction of Abomination in a more comic book accurate version of him, though his face looked way too human and looked really, really awkward. Like, it didn't look bestial at all. It looked very awkward. So yeah, that's that. You also have Michelle Yeoh, who plays the sister. I believe she plays the sister of Wenwu. I'm not entirely sure. No, I'm sorry. She plays the sister of Shang-Chi's mother. She's the one who's basically in charge of Tai Lo. She was fine in the role. Like, she doesn't really do anything that's life-changing or anything like that, but she does supply Shang-Chi with his armor and gives a story about Tai Lo and the history of Tai Lo and about the Dweller in Darkness and stuff like that. So, she's more or less an exposition dump. But she was fine for what it was. We also get the return of Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery. Now, I like Ben Kingsley as an actor. If Trevor Slattery was more of a now if Trevor Slattery was not used the way he used in Iron Man 3, I would have liked the character more than I do. And the only reason why I give the character of Slattery a pass is because I like Ben Kingsley and because Ben Kingsley's performance is really entertaining. And I'll say this. I do like how this movie ultimately ties into the Iron Man movie, specifically Iron Man 3. They make reference to Aldrich Killian and how he corrupted and how he pretty much took the name of how he pretty much took the 10 rings and turned it into his own little political thing. I like how they make reference to that. I like how they make reference to the Marvel one shot of Hail to the King, where we see Trevor in jail, and then it's actually Wenwu's men who broke him out, in which he becomes basically Wenwu's court jester after he did a performance of Macbeth that won Wenwu over. So I like all this stuff. It's a nice added wrinkle to the character of Trevor Slattery, who is actually a good link between the Iron Man movies and this movie. Like he's that good connective tissue. And he's fine in the role for what it is. Like, I don't mind Ben Kingsley nowadays, now as Trevor Slattery, because what's done is what's done. You can't go back. And at least we had a better version of the Mandarin with Wenwu and Tony Leung. So at least Marvel redeemed themselves in that aspect. Though I'll never forgive them for what they did in Iron Man 3 and how they ultimately wasted what could have been a really cool performance by Ben Kingsley. Instead, we get what we get, and like I said, Kingsley is talented enough that he made it work, and he makes it work in this movie. I thought he's actually really funny. He has some of the best humor in this movie. He has some of the best funny moments in this movie as well, especially with his pet Morris, which is actually a faceless bear dog. That was okay for what it was. It's like a stuffed animal for the kids, so it's whatever. So yeah, in terms of the cast, hit and miss. Some of the members are good, and some are not good. The actress who played Xialing, when Shang-Chi's sister, she's fine in the role. Like, she can handle herself in the action sequences. Again, I don't like how she basically bitched out Shang-Chi and made him look like a chump. I am not all for that. I think that sucked, but she's fine in the role. The actor who played Razor Fist, he was physically imposing, and like I said, his best fight scene was the bus scene against Shang-Chi, which I thought was really, really cool. You have the character of Death Dealer, who the movie built up as being something really cool, something very interesting, especially when he and Shang-Chi have a little squabble at Xialing's club, at Xialing's underground club. The Death Dealer and Shang-Chi have a little fight, and then when you get to the third act, the Death Dealer goes out like a chump also. It's like, listen, I am getting so tired of Marvel and Disney taking these cool characters and then pretty much turning them into dumbasses when you get to the third act. Like, what was the point of building them all up as serious threats just to kill them off in just the most unceremonious, half-assed ways? And it just comes across as dull and stupid, and I hate it so much. But I'll get to that when I get to my negatives. In terms of the action sequences, as I mentioned, the bus scene in San Francisco is the best scene of the entire movie, where Razor Fist and Shang-Chi are fighting where Shang-Chi is fighting Razor Fist in the 10 rings in this bus, while Awkwafina is driving it all over San Francisco. This is the best directed action sequence. It's really, really cool. It's really, really well done. It's got some decent visuals to it, and I like it. I already mentioned how I hate the fight pit scene with Shang-Chi and Xialing, mainly because it makes Shang-Chi look like a chump and not cool at all, because he got washed. But the fight scenes after that, when the nightclub's being under attack by the 10 rings, that stuff was decent. That was okay. I didn't mind that at all. Shang-Chi and Death Dealer have a little squabble, and of course, I'd have liked to have seen that rematch in the third act, but no, we didn't get that. Instead, we got something much, much worse. But after that fight pit scene, that's where the movie pretty much has to come down. We get to know more of the history of Wenwu and Shang-Chi, and their dynamics get more explored, in which I actually thought that was some of the strongest parts of the movie, is the father-son dynamic between Simi Luau and Wenwu, because Wenwu is somebody who genuinely cares about his family and his kids, but he's kind of like Thanos in a way, in which he has a higher purpose that he wants to achieve first. So I like that. Wenwu is corrupted by his own ambitions. Like, he's a good man, he is a good man at heart, so to speak, but he'll always be that warlord he'll always be that warlord at heart. And that adds a nice little wrinkle and some complexity to his character, and I like that. And the movie does explore that a little bit, and I enjoyed it. It's like one of the best aspects of this movie. Now we get to my negatives. So pretty much, I already mentioned how I don't like Katie. I thought she sucked. Xia Ling as a character is pretty cool. I don't like her introduction because she makes Shang-Chi look like a dummy. Not every single action sequence in this movie is great. The bus scene is the one that stands out. The fight pit scene sucks. And the whole third act, it starts off good and then dilutes into a typical kaiju movie near the end, and I lost interest. How I would have did the third act, as opposed to how the movie did the third act, I would have had the rematch between Shang-Chi and the Death Dealer, make it like this Mortal Kombat-esque fight in which Shang-Chi barely beats him, and then he makes his way to Wenwu. Then you have the scene basically play out the way it does in the movie. But instead of having the whole Dweller in Darkness thing and the Great Protector and these two dragons duking it out, I would have had more of a hand-to-hand combat type of deal. Or you do the hand-to-hand combat, you have Shang-Chi beat Wenwu, you have Wenwu come to his senses, and then you have the father and son team up to take down the Dweller in Darkness, with Wenwu sacrificing himself to allow Shang-Chi to get the kill shot. I thought that's what this movie was going to do at first, because when the Dweller in Darkness gets revealed, Wenwu gives Shang-Chi the 10 rings before he dies. But that's it. He dies. Because it's not. I thought that Wenwu would like come back to life for a few seconds to help Shang-Chi win, but no, it's Katie. Katie helps Shang-Chi win. Underwhelming. It should have been the father and son teaming up and reconciling themselves, with Wenwu making this. When Wenwu basically becoming the father and making sure his son survives. That would have played better, and that would have wrapped up the relationship between Shang-Chi and Wenwu was so much better. It would have been a tragic ending, but it would have been but it also would have made more sense story-wise and character-wise. Again, it would have played into a line earlier where Shang-Chi tells Wenwu, like, your family needs you. It would have made that line would have made more sense if Wenwu and Shang-Chi would have teamed up together, and Wenwu would have made the ultimate sacrifice to allow Shang-Chi to get the kill shot, instead of getting what we get, which is just a dragon battle and the Mandarin just dying. And and when the Dweller in Darkness comes to attack Tai Lo, the Death Dealer dies before he even gets a chance to have a rematch with Shang-Chi. Like, he dies unceremoniously. And then Razor Fist and the 10 Rings team up with Tai Lo to take down the Dweller in Darkness, and it's just underwhelming and kind of forgettable. So yeah, I think parts of the third act is pretty good, and then other parts of the third act just flat out are not good. And then you get to the end where Wong meets Katie and Shang-Chi in a restaurant. They go to the Carmitage where they meet Bruce and Captain Marvel. It's revealed that the 10 Rings are sending out a distress beacon or distress call. Now, a lot of rumors say it's either Kang or Galactus. I think it's Kang. It's not Galactus. It's Kang. And then you have this really, really dumb karaoke scene of Katie, Wong, and Shang-Chi singing Hotel California, which is a payoff to a running gag about Katie singing Hotel California and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't funny. It was not funny at all. It was dumb. Wong's humor works best when he's the straight man, and he only cracks sometimes. When you turn Wong into a clown, he acts like no different than any other MCU character who acts like a clown. And then you have the post-credit scene of Xia Ling taking over the 10 Rings and molding it in her image. So, yeah, when all is said and done, I'm going to give Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings a solid 6.5 out of 10. Actually, I lied. I think I enjoyed this movie less than what I did before. And yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings. It ain't the greatest movie you'll ever see, but it's not bad either. It's kind of middle of the road. It's definitely not no 92%. I don't know where you get that grade from. Because if you actually watch this movie compared to other Marvel movies, this movie does not stand out whatsoever. I mean, visually, it's got some decent moments to it. Daniel Cretton's not a bad director, but he's not a great director. I think someone like a John Woo should have took over this movie, and then you would have got something really special. Like, if John Woo would have did Shang-Chi and would have did this movie, you would have had like a combination of Face Off and Mortal Kombat, and it would have been something so much cooler. Hell, I would have gave it to Simon McQuaid, who did the Mortal Kombat movie. I think he would have made Shang-Chi. I think he would have did a better job. I think he would have did a better job than Cretton did. But Cretton didn't do horrible. But yeah, like I said, this movie has got moments. It's not horrible. It's good. It's decent. Middle of the road. It's entertaining. But yeah, it's not really a movie that it's not really this epic movie of proportions. Like I think after you watch this movie, you're not really gonna remember much of it because it's really not a movie that stands out. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.